From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Fighting back from drought.
If you want good yield, cane yield per se, we have it.
We head south to Louisiana to check on this year's sugarcane fields. Where can you get a deal right now on hay? More places than you think.
Below 100, which really surprised me.
As USDA takes new steps against discrimination.
For those who were not able to farm or lost their farms, I hope these funds provide some measure of assistance.
The billions of dollars in aid on the way to thousands of producers right now on AgDay.
AgDay is brought to you by Pioneer. Pioneer brand corn is part of a winning team that includes deep local knowledge and on-farm support. Pioneer brand corn, your best years starts here.
Good morning, I'm Michelle Rook. Clinton is on vacation. USDA says money is on the way to producers who say they've experienced discrimination under its farm lending programs. The Biden administration issuing the payments to eligible producers under the Inflation Reduction Act's Discrimination Financial Assistance Program. Ag Secretary Tom Vilsack announcing $2.2 billion in payments. Now, they're aimed to provide financial assistance to operators who say they experienced discrimination prior to January of 2021. Vilsack says this one-time program has provided assistance to 43,000 individuals in all 50 states.
What we're attempting to do is to really create a new narrative for the department. Depending upon an individual circumstances, the awards range from $3,500 to the statutory cap of $500,000. While this financial assistance is not compensation for anyone's losses or pain endured, it is an acknowledgement. And my hope is that this financial assistance will help many farmers stay on their farms, contribute to our nation's food supply, and continue to do what they love to do. And for those who were not able to farm or lost their farms, I hope these funds provide some measure of assistance.
Vilsack says nearly 23,000 individuals receive payments between $10,000 to $500,000 with an average of nearly $82,000. Recipients also include over 20,000 individuals who plan to have a farming or ranching operation but reported they were unable to do so because they could not get a USDA loan. Those payments range from $3,500 to $6,000 with an average of $5,000. And Vilsack adds that the agency has also revamped the Farm Service Agency committee structure and provided equity training among personnel to better serve minority producers. John Boyd, the president of the National Black Farmers Association, releasing a statement following the announcement, calling it a huge win, but saying, quote, the payments are a bittersweet victory because many challenges remain for black farmers, end quote. But similar USDA programs have been met with lawsuits in the past. You may remember we told you last month a federal judge blocked a USDA aid program designed to provide minority and women farmers with disaster relief. A judge in Texas siding with a group of plaintiffs who alleged the program illegally discriminates against white male farmers. The judge saying at the time race-based government classifications violate the Fifth Amendment unless they further a compelling government interest and are narrowly tailored. Another developing story we continue to follow, layoffs at John Deere. TV stations in Illinois reporting 134 employees are being laid off from the company's seeding and cylinder divisions in Moline. The layoffs taking place in 3 phases, starting later this month through October. This is in addition to the job cuts of salaried workers we told you about last week, which impacted just under 500 people in Iowa and Illinois. Illinois WARN notice providing a job-by-job breakdown of those salaried positions cut from its headquarters in Moline and the East Moline Harvester Works. The Farm Journal team putting together this graphic showing the majority of the jobs were in IT and technology, along with engineering and manufacturing and project and program management. Deere officials continue to say the changes are being made due to reduced demand for products and that, as stated in the second quarter earnings call, industry sales are expected to drop by 20%. Happening right now in the western U.S., the park fire has now grown to the 5th largest wildfire in California history. As Sherelle Hubbard reports, the officials say that one fire has burned nearly 400,000 acres.
Dozens of fires continue to rage in the western United States and Canada, causing thousands of residents to evacuate. Among the most vulnerable, a group of 6 Rottweiler puppies and their mothers. They were evacuating when their owner's car broke down, and the fast-approaching fires forced their owners to leave them behind. But disaster response volunteer Trevor Skaggs flew to the rescue and found 1 mom and 4 puppies.
I started to hawk down about 1/3 of a mile away from the vehicle. I started seeing paw prints on the ground that were very fresh, so it was a very encouraging sign.
Aerial and ground crews have been working to get folks to safety and extinguish the flames, with more than 5,000 firefighters trying to get the blaze, believed to be started by arson, under control. The blaze began 1 week ago, and the Butte County District Attorney has charged Ronnie Dean Stout II with felony arson. Court papers allege that he sparked the fire by spinning his wheels in tall grass and then pushed the burning car down a 60-foot embankment. Stout's lawyer declined to comment.
We can't have such a dangerous person out there in the community.
Fire officials say they are pleased with the progress being made as firefighters are starting to get a handle on the blaze. Skaggs says reuniting some of the pups with their families is a morale booster.
It was a big relief for us. It was so joyous. It was like a silver lining.
I'm Sherelle Hubbard reporting.
And dangerous heat continues to make things difficult for crews battling those wildfires in the west. Meteorologist Matt Engelbrecht joins us with the latest.
Yeah, obviously going to be another hot afternoon for us today, but look ahead into tomorrow morning. Not a lot of changes in and across the area. That heat, that humidity, creating some stagnant and warm air masses in and across the United States. So by the afternoon, you got 102 in Salt Lake City, 111 in Phoenix, Tulsa, 102 as well. A lot of triple digits showing up where that ridge has continued to just kind of anchor itself, which is over onto the west coast. This pattern is going to try to break down. The other thing I want to point out is that while we have the triple digit heat here, you also have some cooler temperatures here. That is going to be that change between a ridge and a shallow trough digging across the United States. That's why we've had some showers and severe thunderstorms kind of work right along that gradient, right along that boundary between the extreme heat and also the cooler temperatures where those railroad tracks are coming down. It's looking more like a heat index through Wilmington and Richmond, 106 to 104. And while winter wheat harvest continues here in the U.S., overseas they've been busy harvesting some feed winter barley. David sending this one in from the UK, sharing the video, saying he started harvesting on a Sunday afternoon, but promised to get done in time so he and his team could watch some soccer. Soccer? No, football, as they call it. I'll have more in your forecast coming up.
A lot can change in a year, and that's the case with Midwest forage production and hay prices. In July of last year, large portions of the Corn Belt were in drought, which limited hay production and hay prices skyrocketed. Fast forward a year, and moisture has returned in many areas and boosted forage production. So hay prices have declined rapidly starting in May. Now, in the sandhills of Nebraska, prices have dropped nearly 50%.
In the last few years, it's caught up over $200 a ton for native hay. I was at a deal here last week where they were talking it might get down to 100 or below 100, which really surprised me.
Central Iowa auctions report alfalfa hay in April was in the $170 to $180 per bale range, and now that same market is in the $80 to $82 per bale area. Grass hay was bringing about $140 to $150 per bale in April, and now that same market is at $70 a bale. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention say the U.S. will pay for flu shots for farm workers this year. It's an effort by the agency to prevent avian flu from changing into something more dangerous. The CDC announcing a $10 million investment to address bird flu in farm workers. Half will be spent educating and training farm workers about how to avoid being infected. The other half will pay for seasonal flu vaccines for an estimated 200,000 farm workers who tend livestock and poultry. While it hopes to vaccinate all of them, it acknowledges less than half of the general population typically gets a flu shot. There are 14 known human infections of highly pathogenic avian influenza that resulted from contact with infected dairy, cattle, and poultry in the U.S. The agency still considers the risk to the public low. Corn continued to slide to contract lows midweek while there were some hopeful signs from soybeans and wheat. I'll break down the numbers coming up. And later, 2023 was a tough year for sugarcane producers in the South, but does this year look more promising? We head to Louisiana to find out in the country. More earnings are coming in from ag companies this week, this time from CNH Industrial, and it's also warning of a continued drop in demand for farm products. The farm equipment maker lowering its profit forecast for a second time, now expecting full-year adjusted profit to be from $1.30 to $1.40 per share. Now that's down 15 cents from previous predictions. It now also predicts ag segment net sales to be down 15% to 20% year over year. The company reporting a 16% drop in second quarter revenue at $5.49 billion, which beat Wall Street's estimates. It reports agriculture net sales decreased for the quarter by 20% to just under $4 billion. Grains ending mixed on Wednesday. Mark Schultz with North Star Commodity joining us. Mark, corn futures lowered new contract lows, closing December below $4. Where's the next area of support in that market?
Well, I would say if we close lower again tomorrow or even below 403 on December corn is basically what I'm gauging it off of. We close below there. My next downside target on nearby corn futures would be 350 to 365 comes into play. The market has just been in a pretty much a steady downtrend virtually the entire year. I mean, even since the 1st of May, we've basically spent more time to the downside than we have to the upside. In fact, the biggest up move that we ever had is around 30 cents on corn. That is probably one of the smallest up moves that we've ever had in the summer time period for the corn market.
And with no weather threat, the funds, are they just going to keep selling?
Well, it works, and to be onto the short side certainly doesn't work to be on the long side. So they're going to continue to do what works, despite the fact that they're record short. You would think maybe get some scare to push the market and get them to come out of it, out of their short positions. But right now, they just are very comfortable with that. The trend is down, and they're playing the trend, and they're winning.
Soybeans scored new contract lows as well before seeing just a little bit of a dead cat bounce. I mean, was that all it was?
I'm not overly excited about it. Again, I think the beans and the corn, when you look at the weather right now, forecast-wise, your cooler, wetter forecast, that's about as good as it gets right now for the next 10 to 15 days for the crop. Now, if it stays an extended period all the way through August, then maybe you start coming in with some colder air situation and early frost talk, but you're certainly not going to do that now.
Even though soybeans ended just a little bit higher on Wednesday, do you think that there's a lot more downside risk in that market because August weather looks so good?
I figured if we close below 1018 November beans, my guess is they're headed down to 980, 985 area on the beans. That might be about where you end up for the downside for the time being. So I'm still more negative. I think the rallies will still be met with selling pressure.
Thanks so much, Mark Schultz, North Star Commodity. We'll have more Ag Day coming up. Watch Markets Now with Michelle Rook on the Farm Journal YouTube channel, keeping you updated throughout the day on the markets at the open, midday, and close. Find out what moved the markets today and what to expect the market to do next.
Well, remember earlier we were talking about the heat and that combination between the ridge out here to the west and that shallow trough out here towards the east. You can see where the lines are being drawn in regards to showers and thunderstorms right in between the two extremes. So these are what are called the ridge riders, or we also call them the ring of fire. Not scientific, but they are what they are. And that is where we get these thunderstorms developing back up in the Dakotas and then riding the ridge down. And you know it's a ridge because there's nothing developing back here towards the west. So very heavy, suppressive atmosphere, keeping a lot of development, thunderstorms and showers at a very minimum. It's in between the two. So this is the next 24 hours with some rain, perhaps some isolated strong thunderstorms. As we get into the next 7 days or so, start to see that fill in back here to the east. not to the west, but to the east, as that pattern tries to break down this weekend and into next week. Snowfall estimate, we don't have to worry about anything there, as again, temperatures are staying well above average in and across the area, but the wind gust forecast, as you go through your Thursday, you can see that boundary where we got the ridge and we got the trough right along there. Some stronger winds will start to come through, riding that ridge down. And then, of course, you also have the potential for some stronger wind gusts outside of thunderstorms through Oklahoma and also into Texas, back up here towards the plains. Nothing too severe, but worth noting that we're going to be in a situation with the heat that you could be looking at possibly some heat bursts from this kind of system into Texas and possibly Oklahoma and back up into the Dakotas. This is wind gusts removed from any kind of strong or severe thunderstorms. As you go into your Friday morning and into your Saturday, and start to see that ridge trying to break down, but still rather windy, gusty, back up into the plains, a little bit quieter, back into the Midwest. Again, that's Saturday at 3 o'clock in the morning. We'll start off with West Virginia, partly sunny, high around 89 degrees, low of 71. Ellie, Nevada, mostly sunny, high of 95, low of 56. Marathon, Florida, down there in the Florida Keys, high around 91 degrees.
Hear what a new study has to say about processed red meats and dementia next. And later we check on one really sweet crop. See how this year's sugarcane is faring in Louisiana. The latest beef profit tracker shows feedlot margins have rebounded. These numbers courtesy of the latest Sterling Beef Profit Tracker. They show that cash cattle profit margins improved by $24 per head to an industry average of $350 per head. Meanwhile, beef packers saw losses increase $6 per head for a total of $107 per head. That puts the packer feeder margin spread at $457 per head in favor of the feeder. Cash cattle averaged a little over $197 per hundredweight. Cattle marketed last week carried a total feed cost of more than $335 per head. That's down more than $8 from the same week a year ago. We know that beef is rich in protein and minerals, but what about processed red meats? A new study claims you could cut your risk of dementia by leaving processed red meats out of your diet. It claims people who replaced an ounce of processed red meat a day with a daily serving of nuts and legumes dropped their risk of dementia by 20%. But those who ate an ounce of processed red meat a day raised their risk by 14%. They claim each additional daily serving added about an extra 1.6 years of cognitive aging. Now, researchers warn these results only show an association and do not necessarily prove cause and effect. Processed red meats, including bacon, sausage, hot dogs, and deli meats, are known to contain high levels of sodium, nitrates, and saturated fats. The study is under review for publication. Drought heavily impacted last year's sugarcane crop in the South. Is it a different story this year? We head to Louisiana to find out in the country. There's more optimism in the Louisiana sugarcane industry this year compared to last year. That's thanks to near normal rainfall patterns, which have put the crop in good shape. LSU Ag Center correspondent Craig Gautreaux has this report from the cane fields of South Louisiana.
Last year's severe drought caused Louisiana sugarcane crop to be shorter and lighter. With near normal precipitation levels in 2024, farmers are seeing taller cane and more stalks, which bodes well for a better season.
The crop looks a lot more promising this year since we're not in the drought conditions. Looks to be like we have a little bit more population. A little bit more height too, but I noticed more population here as opposed to last year.
Louisiana's sugar production levels have risen significantly and are driven by many factors. One of those has been a steady increase in acreage.
We're up quite a bit in the last 10 years, and all indications are that we'll have another acreage increase this year.
Another factor increasing sugar production is the development of improved varieties with higher yields.
We found out we've doubled yields over the last 50 years, and 60% of that came from variety development.
Yield is a driving factor when developing a new variety, but there are other characteristics such as disease and insect resistance that must be considered.
If you want good yield, cane yield per se, we have it. If you want high sucrose, we have it. But we don't have all of those in the same varieties. So what we do is we make our best effort to combine the good traits in a single variety.
Coming up with a new variety can be a 12-year journey for sugarcane breeders. With the LSU Ag Center, this is Craig Gotro reporting.
Thanks, Craig. Sugarcane farmers are now planting the 2025 crop, and harvest of this year's crop is expected to begin later in September. That's all the time we have for this morning. Thanks for watching. For all of us at AgDay, I'm Michelle Rook. Have yourself a great day.